Diane told Alex that it was like seeing another piece of the same carpet. The father's patch was faded by the sun and worn by the tread of many feet, while Alex's was still bright and untouched. On her part, Diane introduced him to Howard, who was pursuing his literary interests as a Harvard undergraduate. When following the summer program, Alex went off to Boston to study painting. He developed a friendship with Howard. Visiting New York over the Christmas holidays, Alex stayed with the Nemirovs and saw Alan there too. At one point, Alan said to him, "I'm nothing, and I'm no good for Diane." Alex's hopes for his own suit rose, but Diane's allegiance to Alan didn't waver, and her mother was as direct as a bucket of cold water. "If you have any hopes of marrying Diane, bury them," Gertrude informed him. "Alan is bad enough. I would never let my daughter marry a goy." Alex spent most of the holiday walking around the city with Diane and Alan. He later recalled that he and Alan became as close as brothers, which was funny because looking back on it, we were the exact opposite. Alan was cautious, cool, a perfectionist, while I tended to excess. One day, while the three of them were at an Upper East Side delicatessen, Alex revealed with intense feeling that he was desperately in love with Diane. Alan took it in stride. Diane giggled. After one of Alex's visits, Diane wrote to say how much Alan liked him, and added, "You don't know how wonderful he is because you don't love him. He is good, very good." Reassuringly, she told Alex that he, too, was very lovely and good. In a less confident tone, she added, "I want to be good to you." During this period, Diane also announced that as soon as she turned 18, she would marry Alan. David Nemirov issued steely objections that his daughter ostentatiously ignored, leaving him enraged but powerless. The Nemirovs admitted the inevitable. On March 4th, 1941, 10 days before Diane could legally decide such things for herself, an item in the New York Times announced the engagement of Diane Nemirov to Alan Arbus. Impervious as she seemed to parental disapproval, a stern, implacable voice had taken up residence within Diane's mind. In the autobiography that she wrote during her last year at Fieldston, she described her feelings as an 11-year-old. "I always knew when I did something wrong, and I felt very badly about it, and I disciplined myself always and taught myself to be good. But I couldn't stand having anyone else know that I'd been bad. I always thought that everyone else was good and that I was really a sinner." The presence of evil in the world was much on her mind. Repeatedly, she asked Alex if it was evil of her to want both him and Alan. Despite Alex's reassurances, she remained uneasy. She seemed to believe that her own goodness could be achieved only by serving others, and that in any case it was very much in doubt. In her last year of high school, she was troubled by depressions. "I had the feeling that Diane was undergoing much conflict," Lenrow, her literature teacher, reflected. "But there was no way for one to be of help or get her to bring it out into the open." Perturbed, the teacher asked Howard, who was visiting the campus as a Fieldston alumnus, whether something ought to be done to help her. Howard also suffered from black moods. He brushed aside the teacher's concern. Diane and Alan's wedding took place on April 10th, 1941. If Alex still yearned for Diane, he'd found an artful way to conceal it, having already celebrated the first anniversary of his own marriage. The Eliot romance, from initial encounter to wedlock, swept forward breathlessly. Alex had been living in Boston in a room in a Beacon Street boarding house, trying to make a career as a painter. He mooned over Diane, until at a party given at the beachfront estate of an art collector in Ipswich on the North Shore, he met Anne Dick, a beautiful, headstrong, literary-minded blonde from a patrician family who were down on their luck and taking in boarders in their townhouse, which was situated on Beacon Hill not far from where he lived. The eldest of 4 daughters, Anne was suffering from a personal setback as distressing as the family's financial woes. She had been jilted. The story of her broken engagement became part of the lore of poetry, because her fiancé was Robert Lowell, and later in confessional poems, he recounted the breakup in detail. Violating the rules of both the university and polite society, Anne would visit Lowell, a Harvard undergraduate who was 4 years her junior, in his room after hours. Discovering this indecency, Robert's father wrote to Anne's father.